I bought the most expensive petunias in the world. Now, was it worth it? Let's find out. If you were just to buy one 4.5-inch plant of this Firefly Petunia, it would cost you around $50. But why are they so expensive? Well, if you missed our previous videos about this, that's because this plant is actually bioluminescent. So it will produce its own light and glow in the dark. Now, I've had these plants for about 2 months. They've obviously gotten quite a lot bigger, but we want to see, is this actually worth it if you were to buy these plants or if you have bought these plants? So this is going to be more of a full review of how they're performing and what I think of these plants. So let's get into it. Now, if you are an early adopter of technology, you're going to, well, sometimes see some things that aren't so great about that product because it's a brand new product. And don't get things mixed up. This is technology because it took a ton of technology to be able to splice the genes of the bioluminescent mushroom into these petunia plants. Okay, so full disclosure, I haven't really been babying these plants. So I have not been going and deadheading them. I have put them into a larger pot, obviously, to give them a little bit more room to grow. And I've fertilized them occasionally, though they are due to be fertilized again. I wanted to give them more of a real world as most homeowners would treat this plant because most homeowners aren't intensively fertilizing the way that a greenhouse grower would. So you might be looking at this plant and thinking, that's a pretty ugly petunia plant. I mean, it looks okay, but compared to the new genetics of petunias and the crazy colors that are available and the really good growth habits that you'll see on most nursery type petunias these days, this plant is looking a little bit leggy, a little bit stretchy, a little bit chlorotic. So the leaves are a little bit on the yellow side right now, and the blooms just aren't that large and impressive. And that's because this plant really shines at night. And there was a lot of confusion about this when people were thinking about buying this plant is, how bright does it actually shine? Well, I've got some real world examples to try and show you if you were to buy this plant or if you have this plant, what it might look like at night. Now, there was a lot of excitement when this plant initially got announced because people thought, wow, I could take this plant and plant it along the pathway of my home. It's going to light up my landscaping without using any electricity. And I'll just go ahead and say this right now. If you are using this plant in an outdoor setting, if there is any ambient light at all, whether that's street lights or landscape lights, or even a full moon or half a moon, you're probably not going to be able to see the glow of these plants. And that's because they're not that bright. In order to actually see the glow, you've got to get to a really dark area. In fact, at my house, I have so much light around my house that outside, I can't see the glow at all. I have to take them indoors and go inside a closed room where there's no other light sources. But it is still really, really cool because there's no other plant in existence that can do that. At least not yet. Now, the parent company Light Bio that actually sells these plants, they are working on some other types of plants that are going to also have this technology. So for me, the pros of this plant are, one, it's really cool and novel, and you get to be an early adapter of the technology. Two, it looks really, really cool in photography. So if you have a phone that has a long exposure setting, or if you have a fancy camera or know how to do nighttime photography, you can make these plants look really awesome because they do give out that visible glow, and it can be enhanced with the camera and a little bit of post editing to make it look really far out. And three, it actually does have a decent landscape or container appeal during the day, especially if you live somewhere more north where it doesn't get so blasted hot in the summertime. I think this plant will perform quite well in a container for you. Here in Texas, I'm nervous that it's going to start petering out as the summer heat comes on like most petunias do. Now, as for the downsides of this plant, remember, you are an early adopter if you decided to buy this plant. Future versions are going to be better, hopefully cheaper, hopefully brighter, but you get to be one of the first people in the world to own this plant. And to me, that was worth it. To you, I don't know. That's up to you to decide.